All right, so today we are going to be tackling something that I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about right now, expanding your business across state lines.
Yeah.
Now, it's exciting stuff, right? But with that excitement comes, a lot of paperwork, different regulations in every state.
Oh, absolutely.
The headache is real.
It never ends.
And that's where this stack of articles and guides you sent over comes in.
Right.
They're all about PEOs, professional employer organizations, and whether they're the key to a smoother expansion.
Okay.
So we're going to figure out if a PEO is the secret weapon you've been looking for or just another layer of complexity.
Before we get into all of that, though, I think we should make sure we're all on the same page about what a PEO actually is.
Okay.
Because they're not just another HR outsourcing firm.
Okay, so give me PEO 101. Like, what are we really talking about here?
In the simplest terms, a PEO becomes the co-employer for your employees.
Okay.
Legally and tax-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it like this. You're still calling the shots on the day-to-day hiring, firing, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the PEO is like your super-powered HR department handling payroll benefits and making sure you're squeaky clean with regulations across all those states you're in.
So I'm not giving up control, but I'm getting some serious backup.
Exactly. But, I know what you're thinking. Co-employment.
Yeah.
Sounds a little risky. We'll dig into the legal details and potential pitfalls in part 2. But for now, I think let's focus on why companies even consider this setup in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, the case studies you sent over were pretty convincing. Like Sarah's med tech company, they were just drowning in compliance paperwork and couldn't even get funding because their HR was such a mess.
I've seen this happen so many times.
And then the PEO swoops in, problem solved.
Yeah.
And then there's John, the construction guy. His workers' comp was just eating his profits alive. Multi-state licensing was a nightmare.
A very common problem.
And then the PEO steps in, costs plummet, expansion's on track. So I got to know what makes PEOs such a game changer in these kinds of scenarios.
Well, I think it all boils down to this. PEOs have the expertise and scale that most individual companies, especially growing ones, just can't match.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to keep up with employment laws in 5 different states. It's a full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
And PEOs, they have dedicated teams for that, constantly updating their knowledge, making sure you're always in compliance.
So it's like having an army of HR ninjas at my disposal without the overhead of having to hire them all myself.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, awesome. So these examples showcase the broad appeal of PEOs, but let's get specific.
Okay.
Your research pointed to some industries where PEOs have a particularly strong impact. Healthcare professional services, fintech, even skilled trades, each has its own set of challenges when going multi-state.
Yeah.
And PEOs have become experts at navigating those choppy waters.
Absolutely.
So let's start with healthcare. High-pass state privacy laws, credentialing, even just thinking about compliance makes my head spin.
Right.
So what is it about PEOs that make them such a good fit for this sector?
Well, it's the high-stakes nature of healthcare. You're dealing with incredibly sensitive patient data.
Yeah.
And the regulations are constantly evolving. A PEO that specializes in healthcare will have systems in place to make sure every I is dotted, every test crossed.
Okay.
IPA compliance, tracking licenses and credentials for medical staff.
Right.
Even keeping everyone up to date on the latest legal changes with targeted training.
So they're like the compliance guardians freeing up healthcare companies to actually, focus on healthcare.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Okay, but what about professional services like lawyers, accountants, that crowd? What are their specific pain points?
For them, I'd say it's things like professional liability billing nightmares.
Right.
And the headache of practicing across multiple states because there are different rules everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
A good PEO can step in with risk management programs tailored to those professions, streamline billing and time tracking.
Right.
And make sure everyone's licensed and playing by the rules in each state.
Okay.
Suddenly, expansion doesn't seem so daunting.
Okay, I'm seeing the pattern here. It's all about taking the HR and compliance burden off the company's shoulders.
Yeah.
But fintech, now that's a whole different beast.
Oh, yeah.
What are the unique challenges they face when expanding?
Well, fintech lives at the intersection of technology and finance, which means a lot of regulation.
Right.
We're talking SOC2 compliance, navigating the alphabet soup of financial regulations like the SEC and FINRA.
Oh, yeah.
Plus the ever-present threat of cybersecurity breaches.
Right.
And let's not forget about those complex equity compensation plans they love to use.
Oh, yeah.
PEOs specializing in fintech have the expertise to handle all of it, keeping your data secure, making sure you're following the rules, and administering those fancy stock options without a hitch.
Wow, they really are like specialized task forces ready to tackle whatever your industry throws at you.
That's the idea.
Okay. All right, last but not least, skilled trades and labor construction manufacturing. What makes them a good fit for the PEO model?
Well, safety is paramount in these industries.
Right.
And you've got workers' comp, seasonal workforce fluctuations, plus the constant need to track licenses and certifications across multiple states. PEOs can implement industry-specific safety programs, help manage workers' comp costs more effectively, which can be huge savings.
Yeah.
And offer flexible workforce solutions to handle those seasonal ups and downs.
Okay.
It's all about keeping your operations running smoothly and safely, no matter where your projects take you.
So it's clear that PEOs can bring some serious expertise to the table, especially for these industries with their unique hurdles. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, it often boils down to dollars and cents.
Yeah, for a lot of companies, that's the bottom line.
Is this really a cost-effective solution or just another expense?
Right.
Thankfully, you included a deep dive from a CPA breaking down the financials. So what's the verdict?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
And where you need to pay close attention.
Right.
The CPA crunched the numbers for a professional services company with 50 employees.
Okay.
Expanding from 2 to 5 states. And let me tell you the difference between handling HR the traditional way and using a PEO was eye-opening.
All right, spill the beans. What kind of numbers are we talking about?
The traditional approach, hiring your own HR staff, setting up systems, managing compliance, factoring in the risk of getting it wrong, all of that added up to a whopping $385,800 per year.
Ouch, that's a serious chunk of change.
It is. But what about the PEO option?
Okay, yeah, what about that?
The PEO solution for the same company ranged from $58,500 to $67,500 per year.
Hold on, my calculator just exploded. That's not just saving money, that's potentially fueling massive growth.
It can be.
But I'm guessing there are caveats, right? No way, it's always that dramatic.
You're right to be skeptical.
Okay.
The CPA stressed that those figures were specific to professional services.
Okay.
Healthcare, for example, could see even bigger savings because of the reduced compliance costs.
Mm-hmm.
Skilled trades often get huge wins on workers' comp.
Okay.
The point is the financial impact varies, but the potential absolutely massive.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing the appeal here, but saving money is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
You mentioned some serious tax advantages too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where getting a PEO with deep tax knowledge really pays off.
Okay.
They can do things like optimize your SUTA, that's state unemployment tax.
Okay.
Ever heard of wage-based restarts?
I don't think so.
It's a sneaky way you can end up overpaying when employees work across state lines. PEOs can eliminate that risk and potentially even lower your SUTA rates overall.
So it's not just about offloading tasks, it's about strategic tax maneuvering. I like it. What else did the CPA highlight?
Workers' comp is another big one.
Okay.
PEOs are pros at classifying jobs accurately, and they use real-time payroll data to calculate premiums, which can lead to significant savings.
Okay.
Plus, they handle those dreaded workers' comp audits so you can breathe easy.
I'm starting to think these PEO folks are like the superheroes of the business world swooping in to save the day.
Yeah.
Any other tax tricks up their sleeve?
Oh, plenty. They can help you manage the FICA wage base for employees working across multiple entities, which can save you a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
They often handle work opportunity tax credit administration, and they make sure your Section 125 plans, those are for pre-tax benefit deductions, are set up correctly.
Right.
These are all things you could do yourself, but the expertise a PEO brings can make a huge difference in your bottom line.
Okay, I'm convinced PEOs have a lot to offer: compliance support, potential cost savings, a whole team of tax wizards at your disposal. It's pretty tempting. But I'm guessing actually implementing a PEO isn't exactly a walk in the park. What's the CPA's take on that?
He stressed that going the PEO route is a strategic decision, not a quick fix.
Okay.
He actually laid out a recommended timeline to make the transition as smooth as possible.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's step one?
First things first, assessment and planning.
Okay.
This is where you really dig into your current HR situation.
All right.
What are your costs, your state tax obligations, your benefits programs? Where are your compliance gaps? This phase usually takes a couple of months.
So it's all about knowing your starting point before jumping in. What's next?
Then comes PEO selection and setup.
Okay.
This is where you shop around, compare different providers, and really scrutinize those service agreements. Don't be afraid to get your lawyer involved. You want to make sure everything is crystal clear and protects your interests.
Yeah.
And of course, you need to plan out the transition timeline and communicate everything to your employees so there are no surprises.
Clear communication, always key.
Yeah.
So once you found your PEO soulmate and everyone's on board, what happens next?
Time for implementation.
Okay.
This is where you actually start transferring payroll and benefits over to the PEO, get those compliance programs up and running, and start training your employees on the new systems and processes.
Okay.
It's also important to set up clear reporting systems so you can track progress and make sure everything's humming along as it should.
Okay. So the PEO is officially part of the team, but it doesn't stop there, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
From month 4 onward, it's all about optimization and growth.
Right.
You're monitoring those cost savings, tracking compliance metrics, making adjustments as needed, and basically using the PEO as a springboard to launch those ambitious expansion plans.
So it's a dynamic partnership, not just a set-it-and-forget-it solution.
Exactly. A good PEO becomes an extension of your team,
Right.
a strategic partner in your growth journey.
Yeah.
And the CPA actually emphasized that he offers personalized consultations for businesses exploring PEOs.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So if you're intrigued, you know who to call.
Awesome. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've learned what PEOs are, why they're such a good fit for certain industries, and how they can potentially save you a boatload of money and headaches.
Yeah, but there's still one big question looming, the whole co-employment thing.
Right.
How does that actually work in practice?
Yeah.
What are the legal risks and how can you protect yourself?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we'll be tackling in part 2.
So stay tuned.
Absolutely.